I'm Mel,
And I'm Andrea.
and we've been asking ourselves, WTF? Where's the fun?
So, welcome to our podcast for heart-led business leaders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More impact, more wealth, more joy, and more magic, all while having even more fun than ever before.
As co-founders of FunX, we believe that life and business is way more fulfilling when you're following the fun.
So we're flipping the script on success, giving you permission to create from a whole new paradigm where you can have a lasting impact while nurturing your well-being and having a freaking blast along the way.
So join us each week for engaging solo episodes
and real conversations with experts who are embodying this new paradigm of leadership, spiritual wealth, business growth, and of course, fun.
If you're ready to reignite your spark, make bold moves, and lead from a whole new energy,
let's jump in and have some fun. Today, I'm joined by Brianna Goslin, who's a mortgage agent, financial educator, and host of Let's Talk About Money podcast. She's a former teacher turned mortgage professional, and she's passionate about making homeownership and financial decisions not only clear, but achievable and, of course, fun. We talked about alignment. We talked about finances, her own personal journey, and making bold moves that are aligned with her heart. I know you're going to love this episode. Stay tuned. Welcome back to WTF Where's the Fun? I'm Andrea, and we have a special guest today. I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome, Brianna Goslin.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, so fun. I feel like we could have done this in person because we're basically neighbors.
Yes, we are locals.
Yes, I love it. So I'm excited for our conversation today. We're going to be talking all about alignment in, I think, life, in business, in finances, in fun, all the things. And for you, like I always love people's stories, and I do believe that like sometimes it doesn't seem like a linear path, but usually there's signs that, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you were a teacher. Now you're in more in the finance world. Let's talk about that because like let's start with teaching. Was that something that you always wanted to do, and like how did you get into there?
That's such a good question. And I love the non-linear kind of, but still finding your path metaphor and it's more like following the breadcrumbs in my case, that were dropped from the universe or whatever you want to call it. But teaching was something that I wouldn't say I fell into. I was kind of directed towards. I grew up with parents who pushed us really hard, so we got these great results, but then also did a bit of dreaming for us. So my mother always wanted to be a teacher, and so I thought, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. And I was very much the good girl and did what I was supposed to, and ended up getting hired out of teachers college because I was very fortunate to have two languages, to speak French. So I moved from where I grew up in Timmins, Ontario, almost 9 hours away, to Durham region, and started my teaching job at 23.
Wow, I didn't know you were from Timmins.
I am. Yes, I'm a Northern Ontario girl.
Cool.
Mhm.
It's when I was growing up as well, kind of the same thing, and all of my friends became teachers. So for a bit, I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, should I be a teacher? And it was actually, I wanted to either be a teacher or a police officer. And I really don't know that I actually wanted to be either of those. I think I was conditioned to be like, you have to get good grades, you get a good job, you get a pension. That's kind of the thing that you do.
You know what? I also wanted to be a police officer, and I was even like police officer for a day. I won a contest one time. But I think when I reflected on it, I grew up in team sports and individual sports, and the discipline and the team aspect, and the doing good part, I think both careers really bring that out of you. And I think that's what I was attracted to with those two careers.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So for teaching, how long did you do that for then?
For 10 years.
And at what point did that feel no longer aligned, or did it?
I always said I'm not going to spend my entire life teaching. And people would look at me like I was insane, because when I started teaching, I guess 2012, 2013, it was a time where teaching jobs were scarce. And I had friends who spoke only one language who would be going to Northwest Territories or going overseas to teach. And I was so fortunate to walk into a job. And I'm working with all these folks who are really my parents' age. So I kind of felt like an outlier in that atmosphere. I did make some great friends with whom I'm still best friends, but it was kind of like being transplanted into this atmosphere that I had no idea how to connect with my colleagues. And also, I had all these kids that I was like very inexperienced to take care of and teach and impart knowledge on. Now, that part came. I'll say I was very good at my job. I was a great teacher, but at a certain time, the career didn't fit my life. So I became a mother. I had two kids. My second daughter was born just before COVID and everything shut down. So, of course, I worked through after my mat leave. I went back to work early because probably like you, Andrea, I'm like a high energy person. I can't sit still for very long.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, I can teach from my office at home, still be there for my kids. They nap at that time, it's fine. And then teach my French immersion grade one class online. And it felt like really aligned, like I should do that. Then of course, I call it like the education crisis happened. Everything changed. It was a different atmosphere that I was returning to because I had changed. I'm now a mom, and the world had changed, and it just did not align with what I wanted for my life. So we ended up moving to Muskoka from Durham region. So we moved up north. My husband's self-employed. It was an easy move for him to make, and I got into a short-term contract teaching because I thought I'd give it a try, and it still just wasn't right. So on March break, I decided I wanted to be a mortgage agent. And then I studied and did my course on March break and got it all done so that the last half of the year, I was ready to roll. And I started my mortgage business in June.
So you literally from March till June was that transition of you going from, okay, I'm going to be that to I'm doing it.
Yeah. And I think it, it had been on my heart since I left Durham region, and I also thought that moving to Muskoka, and there's something you can attest to this, moving up here, spending time outdoors, and I came back to myself really in that time. And it just didn't make sense for me to keep pushing and doing this thing that was taking me away from the people I love so much, and just not working with my skill set. And I also saw post-COVID that I had developed all of these really great tools like showing up online that I could use to in my business that could be profitable for me. So that was a great realization. And my idea to action time is very short. I like to do it scrappy. I like to do it messy, but I figure it out. So I think that was really a strength for me starting the business so quickly.
Was there like a pivotal moment where it's almost like you really, maybe you even realized that you weren't in full alignment, or that you were like, I want to be more aligned with my values and the lifestyle and who I'm growing into?
Hmm. Actually, I realized that this wasn't right for me in working with one of my colleagues who's an incredible teacher. And I saw how all of these things, even kind of the obstacles we were coming up against, she took them in stride and she loved it. And I thought, at first, I thought there was something wrong with me. I'm like, I should love this. And teachers make good money and they have a pension. And I thought, I should be grateful. But then I had some personal things happen in my life, and I started to do some self work. And I realized, no, this is misalignment that I'm feeling. There's nothing wrong with me, but I'm not using my skills that I have and my greatest gifts and talents to help the people that I need to be helping. There has to be somebody out there. And of course, I had just been purchased my home, had a less than stellar mortgage experience, and also, I'm married to somebody who's self-employed. So I know the struggles that business owners and entrepreneurs have, and you will know too, Andrea, um, in qualifying for a mortgage. And I just thought that could be better. That whole thing could be better. So here I am making it better.
Cool. Yes, it could be better for sure. I I love this, and it's so, I don't want to say like we've done a lot of similar transitions to you, so I always find it, so there's lots of parallels. And looking back, it seems simple, and I don't want to say easy because it's not easy. There's lots of, I think, just different shifts that need to happen in order to go from, especially if you're coming from that type of career, into self-employment. Did you find that there was any like things that you weren't quite expecting that popped up?
Oh my gosh. Well, you would know, being a business owner is just kind of self-discovery on steroids. So, yes, so many things popped up for me. I'm I'm unique in the way that I am absolutely not unique because I have a twin sister, an identical twin sister. And I think a lot of kind of my business growth is attached to my identity and the growth in my identity, and that coming back to myself I think has been a really big part of that. And growing up as a twin, there's constant comparison, right? And it's whether it's good or bad, you have to be one or the other. And if there's parents of twins listening right now, I think that you're doing your kids such a disservice by comparing them. Compare them to the outward world, fine. But when you present a dichotomy that you can be this or you can be this, you can be Mary Kate or you can be Ashley, which we are neither, it, it, it really tells you that, okay, you have to fit inside this box and this is where you're going to stay. So then starting my business, it was like a complete shift. Like I could be anything. And like, for example, I met you in the business world, Andrea, and you had no idea that I had a twin. And it's so funny because once you start telling people that you are a twin or an identical twin, they go, oh, like as if you kept something from them. But really, it's like my little nugget of like, yeah, there's somebody like me out there. And it's like it's a cool thing to tell people. It's a great way to gain connection. But it's just that, like I have a sister that looks like me, but I'm me. And starting my business gave me the freedom to show up as me. And the more that I do it, the more me I am, the more I start to pull in, align people into my world. And then I think that's the magic because that's the keep going through that's what's going to pull me through and what has been pulling me through all of that discomfort, all of the shifts, all of the extra steps that maybe I didn't foresee when I thought, okay, I'm going to go into mortgages. And it's been, yeah, that's been a really great gift to be able to show up as myself and to come into myself as a business owner.
Today's episode of WTF, Where's the Fun, is sponsored by The Fun Experience, a curated mastermind for established business owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More magic, more joy, more wealth, and more fun than ever before. So if you're ready for a peer-to-peer mastermind that's helping you to embody more leadership, more impact, and make bold moves, The Fun Experience is where it's at. I think what you're saying is so powerful because I think no matter who we are, what we do, it's like coming back to ourselves. And maybe coming back to ourselves, it isn't even the right way to say it because a lot of us haven't even we're just discovering who and what, and it's always growing and expanding. And it's funny because I'm so used to growing up in a world of twins. I'm not a twin, but my sisters are twins. Mel's a twin. Literally, like I grew up with so many twins on like my soccer team. So if anything was like the opposite, it was like, why don't I have my person? Where's my twin? But I can definitely see, yeah, like it was almost like permission to be like, I get to bring my essence out into what I'm creating. And I can see that. I can see that through your brand. I can see that through what you have created in a very short period of time. So how do you stay aligned with your brand and your values as you continue to grow and kind of step into this world that you're in now?
That's such an interesting question because in my industry, things are rapidly changing. And also, the business grows rapidly because depending on what's happening in the market or what needs Canadians have for funds, everything changes. So, to keep both my content and my brand and my communication, to keep everything in line with the kind of service and experience I want to deliver, I have 3 pillars that I run literally everything through. Like I even tell ChatGPT, keep in mind, these are our 3 pillars, make sure that it satisfies that. So that's education. Because obviously I come from an education background, and I think that you don't know what you don't know, and really nobody knows much about mortgages unless they're in the industry or are a very seasoned investor. I mean, you deal with it once or twice in your life, but it is a massive loan. Like it's this big amount of money that you need to know how to leverage and the mechanics of it. So education, and then also integrity. In the financial industry and any industry really, when there's a lack of information, and sometimes a strategic lack of information, then we lose the risk associated with the product and we lose the integrity of what we're doing. So that's huge for me. We need to have education, integrity, and then also community. And this is where my local Muskoka community comes in. I run an online business. I don't have to see anybody in person if I don't want to. But it's very important to me that I'm connected with the people who are teaching my kids, packing my groceries, who are the dental hygienist who I go to see every 6 months. Like, these people are so important because they are what gives me life, right? If I'm just in front of a screen, then I might as well be teaching. I might as well be teaching online. I want to connect with people deeply, and I do that through giving back to the community, but also just being in the community and soaking that all up, because I think there's something really special there. And I also tend to learn then what people need from me. If I'm spending more time with people, I'm able to then learn how to deliver the information that they need.
How did you figure out, because we bring ourselves through a process, but I'm always curious, like, how did you figure out what your values are? Like, how did you come up with those three?
Lots of journaling. Lots of journaling. And then they didn't exist initially. I'll be very honest with that, because when I started in this new industry, my job involves marketing, and it also involves the actual doing of arranging mortgages. And it's so interesting because I was learning all the doing, and I was putting out marketing that was aligned with my brokerage brand, which is a great brokerage, but it wasn't really serving me because it wasn't bringing me the clients that are aligned with me. So, and you, I don't invite you to do that, but you can. You can scroll back on my Instagram and you'll see the colors are different, the feel is different, it's all different. And as I started, that's why I always say, do it scrappy, just start. Because as I started to create content, I started to realize, oh, these are the things that are resonating with my audience and also that are important to me. So on the back of that, once I made that realization, lots of journaling, lots of this is what I want to bring into the world, and then synthesizing that down with a couple of important questions. I don't even remember where I got these questions, but they were great questions that really helped me bring it down into 3 pillars that are going to drive my business. And now, like I said, everything runs by those.
Yeah, I love that, because I find it does take a little bit of time at first to like get clear, and it's always evolving. But I feel like the more clear you are, the more certainty you have, and then it's the certainty that sells, because now you're enthusiastic, you're connected, you're inspired by what you're doing. And every time I talk to you about that, like I can feel that from you. Like, you genuinely care about, and I would say, like, that makes sense. Like, it makes sense, the education piece, the integrity piece, and then the community aspect of it. I love it. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you. I'm
totally
glad that it resonates. I'm glad that comes through.
Yeah, and you do this, I think, well in many different ways. Like, you even have your podcast. So how long have you been doing your podcast for?
So the podcast started in October. So the podcast that we're talking about right now is Let's Talk About Money. But previous to that podcast, I had a podcast called Homeowner AF that was directed at first-time homebuyers. And then that was you can go back and listen to that as well. That was kind of an exercise in learning and in putting out something that I knew people needed. And once it kind of felt complete once I had done 2 seasons, and I thought, you know what? Now the first time home buyers who are coming to me, they're getting older. Now they're move-up buyers. So let's look, what can we provide for them? But I also thought I have a subset of clients who come to me who are women in transition. And women in transition are often needing some financial literacy skills that they had not had a chance to acquire during their marriage or relationship or whatever had happened previously. I wanted a way to reach those folks because I can't help everybody with my call calendar. I can't take a call from absolutely everybody, but the conversations that I'm having with industry professionals are so helpful and have been so deeply educational for me as somebody who's already in finance. So I wanted to share those conversations, and that's what Let's Talk About Money is. I mean, we have friends of this podcast who have been on it. Stacey Millard was a great resource for me. She was one of the first episodes I recorded, but it's really directed at women who want the first best step for whatever they're going through right now financially. And I think it's also a place where people can take a breath and jump into a conversation that they don't have to walk into a bank for. Because I've heard so many times that is really, it's anxiety inducing for a lot of people, not just women, a lot of people. And I don't think that the financial industry does a good enough job acknowledging that, saying, hey, it's hard. Hey, this is new and it's okay. A lot of people come from these experience from these appointments and they come to me virtually saying, I just felt so uncomfortable. And it was like the doctor's office. They told me a bunch of stuff and I forgot. And now I don't know what to do. So that's the feeling that I want to alleviate. I want to be able to deliver like the best first step for people who are feeling kind of icky with their finances.
I love that, and it's almost like I know for me, like, I just hate it when people waste my time. It's like and the bank, I think, does a really great job at it just takes longer than it needs to be. So, I'm big believers in mortgage brokers and having people to start to, like, accelerate that process and to it also makes it more fun. I love getting to work with people and not to put the banks down because we do have some people in the banks that are great. And I do think there's a time and a place for a lot of these things. And then the added, I think, just feeling supported. Like I want to work with people where that I feel supported so that I feel safe, so that I can create the thing that I'm here to create. And I can see how like just having yeah, the resources and that information to help you take that first next step or that best next step. It's going to save you time, money, energy, but it's also going to make you feel safe to take that step forward.
And I always tell my clients that it's easier to make a good decision when you're coming from a place of safety and understanding. You can make a confident decision. But when you're coming from a place of confusion, scarcity, and fear, which is what is what finances largely do to people, they make them scared. So they bury their head in the sand, they do nothing, or they make a flash decision that may not have all of the information behind it to be a good decision for them. So, regardless of what we're talking about, whether it be home buying, investing, getting out of debt, any of that, reach out to a professional first so that you can understand what the process is going to be and what you need to do to set yourself up for whatever the transaction is that you're doing, because you don't want to, by ignoring it, this is a funny thing that happens with money. When you ignore it, it largely does not get better. I don't hear of a lot of people who find large amounts of money. They more often lose large amounts of money, unfortunately. So when people are feeling those feelings, I always urge them to to engage a professional as soon as possible so that they can keep their options open and then progress confidently.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's almost like I am a big believer in there's a difference too between like you can create wealth, but can you sustain it too? And it's not just about sustaining it, but like that's I think that's also an energy game too. It's like you can make the money, but can you sustain the money? Can you grow the money? Can you continue to play in that? And it's almost like, okay, so I heard this quote. I don't know who it's from, but I'm gonna share it anyways, and I'm gonna see what you think about it. It's oh, I wish I know who said it. It was on it, I think it was on someone's podcast, and they were saying how it was actually a woman, and she went to her mentor, and her mentor was making a lot more money than her at the time, like hundreds of millions of dollars. And he was asking her a bunch of questions, like she's like, "How do I make more money?" And he's like, "Well, how much are you currently making?" And she's like, "I think this much." And then he's like, "Well, how much are your investments increasing per month?" She's like, I think this." Basically, she didn't know the exact numbers. And his advice was, or his, I guess the essence of what he shared was that money's like a mistress. And if you don't pay attention to her, she's going to leave you. And I don't know that it's necessarily in that context, but I do think that their energy behind it, and what we appreciate appreciates.
Yes, absolutely. And that intentionality. If you don't know to have that goal in mind, you're never going to get there, right? And it's the same thing when you ask me about starting my business. It's so funny because the goal that I had, of course, I've reached some of them and some of them are still pending, but it wasn't really the goals. It was those small steps that I started to make to get to that goal.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with money. We can get very overwhelmed by thinking of the huge situation that's happening or by that big goal that we want to save money for. But really, once you start working those habits, and as an athlete, you'll know this, you're flexing the muscle, you're creating growth, and you become that person. It's so funny. You talk about manifesting all these things. You become that person in the process whether you want to or not, if you're reaching that goal, you become the person that has reached that goal. And that requires change and it requires some adjustment. But at the end of the day, it's the teeny tiny steps, one after another. And I think people need to keep that in sight.
Yeah. Okay, so good. And I'm curious about your podcast then. Is there any like key themes that you find that come up in some of the conversations that you're having either with guests or just like in your audience in general?
I always say if I were to rename the podcast, it would just be called Alignment. Whether I am projecting that through my own personal journey or it's just good advice, which I think is the latter. It's just when people are spending in alignment, saving in alignment, and consistently doing things consistently that are in alignment with their financial plans, success happens, magic happens. Every financial expert that comes onto my podcast, and I'm learning just as much as my audience. I'll preface that here. I come from an educational background. I know a lot about mortgages. I'm the mortgage girl, but I'm not necessarily the investment girl, the accountant. That is not my realm. So I'm learning these things, and when everybody's talking, I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we just need to be directed towards a goal." Because when we're directed, we are so powerful. Otherwise, it's like, the shower head when you can turn the pressure of the water. Like we're just naturally like a rainfall shower head, but with a goal, we become that like super strong one that you don't really want to get in front of. We want that. I want that for everybody. I want that specifically for Canadian women. I want them to be lasered in on a goal and I want them to reach their goals. That's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah, and what you just said makes so much sense, but in terms of I think the biggest thing is the alignment piece. Because because we're even if we're like putting all this work effort into something that's maybe not even in alignment with us or maybe it's not even meant for us, then it's either it's not sustainable or it's not going to have the impact or the growth or it's not going to have the outcome that we want. We've actually seen this many a times and sometimes you have to try things to learn. Like Mel and I have tried, and I'm not saying we wouldn't ever do it again, but we've gone down the stock route, we've done real estate investment, we've done all these things. And because we jumped in with both feet and we learned a lot, like we joined the best of these groups. And the biggest thing that we always found is it just wasn't in alignment with how we wanted to put our energy and our attention and our in that moment. So I think what you're saying, like if we were to use that showerhead analogy and have it in alignment with the way that makes the most sense with our values, with where we're at, with what we want, I think that is like exponential growth because now you're totally in alignment. Like things are going to happen for you that otherwise wouldn't happen.
Exactly. And I think it's important to note that sticking with whatever your strategy is so important. I mean, right now we're talking, it's the end of April 2025. Obviously, those who have investments in the stock market have noticed a dip. Fine. That happens. Life happens. But if you stay committed to your long term plan, then you're going to end up in a better position than if you're chasing the shiny object all the time.
Exactly.
And of course, I'll say that magic does happen, miracles do happen. There are people who did very short-term investments into Bitcoin and just made a lot of money. That's great. But for those people who are in alignment, who are doing the small tasks in alignment every day, they experience the long-term growth that I think people forget about because you have to stay consistent and that's hard and we're human, right? But I think that note to stick with something, whatever it is, stick with something and get the right professionals involved and you'll have your path to success financially.
Yeah. Is there any like, if you were to share like one or two habits that people could start as those baby steps, do you have typical ones that you usually start with?
Absolutely. The first is taking stock of what you have and what you're spending, whether you want to call that a money meeting or a family budget. And this, I think it's important that if you're partnered, that you also have your partner there with you to do these meetings, whether it's monthly, biweekly, or quarterly. I don't care, but you need to meet and you need to know what's going on in your household. Whether you have separate accounts or accounts together, it doesn't really matter. But it's the accountability piece here that you want to consistently know what's happening with your finances. So, like you said, the mistress will leave you if you are not paying attention to her. Pay attention to her, know her intimately, right? Like you need to know what's going in and what is going out. That's the first thing. The second thing I think is less than a habit, and it's more of a mindset that you need to train yourself to be in. I see a lot of lifestyle inflation, especially for folks 35 plus. Now you're in the money making years of your life. You see your friends have the new car, you want the new car, your friends have the new patio set, you want the new patio set, trips, whatever it is you're spending on. If it's not in alignment with you, what are you getting from it? Does it feel good? Probably not. And you know what people tend to do when it doesn't feel good? Well, they spend more money. And I just think that by getting clear about what is important to you, your spending can become easier and it can feel better and it can also push you towards your goals. And those are the two things that I think knowing what's going on, everybody who is in the picture, the financial picture, knowing what's going on, and ensuring that you know what your goals are and that you are aligned. You need to know where you're going.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's great. If somebody wanted to learn more about you or to work with you even, how can people get a hold of you, get to know you, all those things?
Well, I would love to get to know everybody. But the best place to really find out about me is on Instagram. That's where I post most often, and you'll get to know kind of how I work, who I work with, and that's a great source for information. Also, Let's Talk About Money is available on all podcast platforms as well as locally on your TV, Muskoka. So if you're local to Muskoka and you get the cable channel, go ahead and watch your TV. If you do not, then all of my episodes, including Andrea's episode, is up on YouTube, so you can go there as well. And my website is www.briannagoslinmortgages.com. So that's a little me in a nutshell. And of course, I do residential mortgages. So anybody who needs home financing, debt restructuring, renewals, any of that, you can absolutely book my call calendar. It's at my link in bio.
Do they have to be in Muskoka? Like, could it be GTA? Could it be
I love you for that question, Andrea. No, anywhere in Ontario. I do everything virtually. So show up in your sweatpants. Please don't come to my home. And I'd be happy to work with, anybody from Ontario.
Okay, that's great. And what's bringing you some fun and fulfillment in your, could be your life or your work?
Okay, so I'm a big movement person. Love sports, but don't have the time to always do what I want to do. And I just recently made a purchase. It's a weighted vest, and they're very hot right now.
Fun.
And I'm so excited about it. I'm gonna look a little bit crazy, but I don't care. My kids just started biking on two wheels. It's a very exciting time in my house, but there's a lot of like me walking 400 meters there and 400 meters back. And so I'm going to wear my weighted vest, get my heart rate up, and I've already tried it once, and it was amazing. I loved it. So I'm really excited to kind of look like badass and walk around my neighborhood with my weighted vest.
I am so excited for you. I have one that it's my celebration vest. I'm waiting for this one thing to go through, and then I'm getting it as my celebration. Which one did you get? Is it just like
I got one off Amazon, and it's 30 pounds, but I might have to get a new one because it's kind of stinky. I don't know why. It just like kind of smells a little bit from the material. It's very cheap. But I was looking at the more tactical military ones. Is that what you were getting?
No, see, I want like this bright pink one because I do not want to be reminded of wearing a bulletproof vest. I want to be like, hey, this is fun. It has nothing to do with policing.
See, and I'm visioning myself as like Rambo. I'm like, I am
like this tack as you're like doing flips beside your kids as you're walking them with their bike.
Yes, very that.
That's so good. That's fun. Okay, well, I'm excited. Share a video or a picture or something with you in your vest because I don't know why that just brings me joy too. There's something about like, I don't know, you hit 40 and you're like, let's get a weighted vest. I don't know.
Get that bone density up. That's my
exactly. You were to leave our audience with one last thing from your heart to their heart, what would you want to share?
If I could leave one piece of advice, and if people are listening to this, one thing that I say, it would be to give yourself some grace first, and then take a look at what's going on. I think a lot of people just struggle in silence when it comes to finances, and it need not be that way. There are people who are ready with open arms to help you, whether that is part of their business or not. I'm one of those people. I'm a DM away if somebody is experiencing a transition, doesn't know what to do next financially, or if somebody just wants to chat about their money stuff. I'm around. I'd love to chat.
Yay. Yeah, we definitely aren't meant to do life and business alone. So it's definitely way more fun when you're doing it alongside other aligned, awesome humans. So good. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being on. And I'm just excited for just continuing to see you grow, bring out the podcast, bring out the brand. And yeah, it's just so nice seeing somebody so excited and genuinely really aligned to what they're creating. So yay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the conversation, Andrea. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, woohoo.
Thanks for listening to WTF. Where's the fun?
We're Andrea and Mel, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you to see how fun it can get.
If today's episode brought a little bit more fun into your world, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review.
And remember, life and business is so much better when you're following the fun. So let's have some fun.